Lieutenant Colonel Jim Davis. My name. I work for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Engineering Research and Development Center. I have 12 Regions Lab up in Hanover, New Hampshire, and I also help out West Point with the critical infrastructure program that they're working on. And today we've got some guest speakers coming in to present some information. And I'd like to kind of dovetail off a couple of things that Colonel Hart mentioned this morning. As we go through this process, we were really gearing on the education side. And what part of the curriculum, what needs to be added, what's missing, how do we improve it? And for the cadets and the junior officers that might be in here, is what can you expect in the future? What do you need to prepare yourself for? And what can you expect as we proceed down through time and the challenges that we're going to face? We have kind of an operational perspective in this particular breakout session. We have a session at 13:30 right now. We also have one after this, which will also concentrate on the same topic, a little bit different spin, more along the professional development track. So we have educational, operational perspectives, and operational requirements perspectives. We had our first guest speaker had flight problems. His flight was canceled. And so things are shifting a little bit. We've had to shift a couple people around. So the tracks won't be exactly as initially were designed. So we may kind of bleed over into the two different sessions may bleed over. But that's fine as long as we get the topic out there. And please ask questions. We only have about 10 to 15 minutes per speaker. So if you could please hold your questions until a 10-minute time frame or so, and we'll turn over to questions and get them out there. And Colonel Hart wanted me to mention that we are recording this, and so we're going to have kind of go back and review this, and so things that are mentioned verbally, we can capture it and hopefully incorporate into our curriculum and lessons learned and go back and really capture this. So when you stand up and speak, please address loudly your questions so that the cameras and microphones can pick it up. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. And, excuse me, first speaker is going to be Nathan Kathir, and he's a program manager for Public Works Sector Defense Critical Infrastructure Program, headquarters, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Mr. Kathir is currently the program manager, as I mentioned. He has more than 25 years of engineering experience in the areas of planning, design, and construction, and teaching civil engineering undergraduate courses. He has performed vulnerability assessments of infrastructure of over 125 military installations worldwide, to include expeditionary environments and other government facilities. Please welcome Mr. Kathir.
Thank you, Colonel Davis. I always stand behind. If I stand behind, you won't see me, but I need to use the microphone. So, my voice is not as loud as Colonel Hart, so I need to. Can you hear me in the back?
Yes.
Okay. It's interesting, but some of the points I wanted to talk, basically it was geared toward the students more than practicing professionals, so I should say geared toward the younger audience. And it's interesting, if you go in the morning session from 8 to 10:30, Colonel Hart, in that discussion we covered a lot of the things I was going to say. So it really makes it easier, but 2 points I want to start with. 20 years ago, I used to teach at Texas A&M in graduate school. I used to teach. And my philosophy was, when you teach, I think that's what I came out this morning, you're not really teaching everything. It's just the first phase of your learning, lifelong learning. You're just starting to learn how to learn during your life period, during your professional life. That's the one thing. Then a few years ago, I was at the National Defense University, Industrial College of Armed Forces, ICAP. The first week, I had one professor, he came and said, "You're all smart people, you're all senior 5 or 6s, GS 14s, 15s here. So the fact you are here, you're smart, so you don't have to prove anything. But what we are going to teach is how to think. What to think and how to think in life when you go back to work. And it still struck my mind because still I keep it because that's the whole point here. We are trying to, in the school as well as these things, you are trying to learn how to think. So keep that 2 points, and that's my theme here. All right, next slide, sir. This is the agenda I thought I would cover based on the time, and let's see how to keep. Oh, you'll give me the time clock?
I'm timing you.
All right. Take it quickly, then. I normally speak fast, so I'll go fast, but if you don't understand, raise your hand and I'll slow down. We saw this HSPD7, which is Homeland Security Presidential Directive 7, which was written after 9/11, published in December of 2003. And that's the driving force for most of the, at least right now, the last 8 years, the driving force behind the nation's critical infrastructure protection efforts. Then, coupled with that, there is also, you will see in the next slide, a complementary DOD publication. And in this one, they have a National Infrastructure Protection Plan, or NIP. In that, they have 18 CIKR, Critical Infrastructure Key Resources, or what you call 18 national sectors. And then there are one sector-specific agency for each of the sector, and DHS has cover lead for 6 or 9 of the sectors, but each sector has a lead agency. Then within the DOD, we have 10 what you call defense infrastructure sectors. Some of them has a linear relationship with these national sectors, some don't, some multiple relationship sectors. But for the 10 sectors, we have one either DOD agency or COCOM or Combatant Command or services that are in charge of that. For the public works defense sector, USACE or US Army Corps of Engineers is the lead, and I manage the program for the public works sector. That's what I call. What I really, you can see this the second main bullet, the stakeholders. If you see that At.Engineer, this really is very small subset of the whole community here. And that's the lesson I learned, and that was a theme this morning too. Engineers only form a small piece of it, and you have to work with all of the people. And that's the other key takeaway. And the last point on this slide is, what is critical? How do you define critical? You go and ask the base commander, installation garrison commander, they will say something. You go and ask the MACOM, they will say something else. You go in the different levels, you get different answers. And the DHS is different than DOD. So you will see that later on. So you have infrastructure, then you have critical infrastructure. And what we are trying to do is protect the really top, utmost critical infrastructure. So you have to know how you define it. This is just a good vision and goal slide for DCIP. So you could read it from the, quickly glance it, and then it will be saved for your record. Am I going fast, or can you follow me what I'm saying? Okay. So next one. So where do we get the authority and guidance to run these programs? For the nation, it comes from HSPD7, like I said before. In HSPD7, there are 2 directives for each of the, say, cabinet level agencies. One, you have to collaborate with the DHS to protect the national infrastructure. The second part is, within each department, you have to have your own CIP, or critical infrastructure program, to take care of your own assets. That's where the DCIP, Defense Critical Infrastructure Program, comes. That's a DOD program to take care of our own assets. And there are 2 major publications you saw this morning: DOD Directive 30/2040, the instruction, and also within the Army, we had some Army guidance that I had to follow, being employed by the Army. All right. I think you can wait for the questions later. Is that right, Colonel Davis?
Yeah, that's fine.
This is the basic process within DC, but if you, whether you're in the DHS or DOD, essentially you identify the assets, prioritize them, assess them, what the issues are, then try to make a risk-informed vision whether how much risk to accept, or whether you want to mitigate any threats, remediate, do some remediation to bring down the risk, or accept what it is. And then it goes on a cycle. In our DOD, this is the DCIP is a still outboard program, still in its infancy, so it's still evolving. We went through one cycle, trying to identify, and we are at this stage right now, trying to sort out the rest and what the priorities are, so we can go about fixing those. And then the intent is to go in a yearly cycle update as needed. All right. Within USACE, since I'm by the Army Corps of Engineers, we have a number of CIP programs, or some in supporting roles, some for our own purpose. This is the purple DC program. Purple means it's a DOD-VID. Then within the Army, they have called Army's version of DC, which is called CIRM. And I had two of my colleagues here in my team. Well, Steve Franklin. He runs the CIRM program for the Army. Then Paul Landgraf, he's in my team also. They deal with the first two. Then we have another program called CIP, that's primarily for our civil works side, locks, dams, and levees, or part of the civil works, because we have bridges and a lot of other structures, but the critical, this is the one that deals with the major impacts. So that's called CIP program, that's run by another program manager. It's a nationwide program. Then we have the supporting programs, and also under the FEMA's National Response Plan, we have the ESF number 3. There are 15 emergency support functions. And USACE is the lead for number 3. There's another group runs it, and all the districts and divisions they support it. But the point of this is, because of all these activities, USACE has very good experience and lot of wealth of knowledge on public works, public works and engineering. All right. Now, earlier I asked a question, what is critical? I think some of you, those who were in the morning, when you talk about the national 18 sectors, the preliminary initial screening to find out what is critical is based on consequences. Yes. There are 18 sector plans and transportation, nuclear, different sectors, but they are all based on consequence. The next one, sir. When you come to DOD, it's strictly war fighting mission. How do you impact the war fighting mission? And that's how the initial screening is. Once it's done, the rest of the risk management process is pretty identical on both sides. And also DHS, there are some information at the secret level, mostly FOU or for official use only, and they had to share with the private state governments and the local governments and so on. When the DOD, the minimum you will see on all this information we have is secret, some are top secret, and even higher. So based on what the sectors and what the assets we deal with. And I manage this sector for the DOD, public works, on behalf of the corporate. And so like you see, some of these sector names are different than the national sectors, like transportation and health, or defense industrial base, the same thing on the other side too. All right, so next one. If you ask what a sector is with the DOD, this has a definition of the first one. The second one says what public work sector is. So I'll let you blank for a minute. All right. This one is a slide I threw into what the Steve Franklin does for the Army. Essentially, what he comes up with all these natural hazards and disasters, coming up with the risk management chart, likelihood of the event and what the consequences are, and where they fall. And the way you come up with this sort of deep, site-specific, detailed analysis they are doing to come up with where this fit. But this is a sort of a command bridge. You have one slide, one chart to look at it. As long as you are in the green, you're good. If you are yellow, you have to look at further to see what to do. But if you go in here, you're going to the danger zone. So that's the benefit of the chart. But it takes a lot of effort and time and resources to come up with this. And later on, if you have questions, Steve will answer it. Okay. Now, we heard this word this morning too, or even at lunchtime, resiliency. What is resiliency? even at a presidential level, Advisory Commission 9, they came up with a couple of reports in 2009, and the commission is still, the council is still there. This is their definition of resiliency. What is infrastructure protection and what is infrastructure resilience? And I would add to that, you don't, I think it's there, sometimes you don't have to build everything physically to achieve the operational resiliency. You can do by operational means and plans. That's something to keep in mind. You don't have to. All right. This kind of the last two slides focused especially on the young audience. And what I learned, I'm going to share with you. And my background is in a civil structural engineer. And for about 9 years, I worked for the agency called DTRA, doing assessment going all over the world, especially for 95% all military, but occasionally I did for other agencies. Part of the teams trying to do infrastructure assessments, force protection assessments, so on. With the focus, partnering and collaboration and communication, that's very critical. That's what I learned. And engineering is almost by wayside. And what I had trouble was as an engineer, before that I used to work in a district office for the Corps of Engineers for decades. So that was easy. I sat in a corner, I did my engineering, that's all. I didn't even have to have too many friends either, just did my work. But here, working with a lot of different people with different backgrounds, that's the key takeaway. And also, you don't necessarily come across a lot of scientific, technical, or STEM background, scientific, technical, engineering background people. You're dealing with all these people, and it's a fact of life, and you can't escape it. I think we heard that very well this morning. And those are my lessons, and I think it jives very well with what we heard today. So, what can I advise you as a 30 plus years of engineering experience? You stay focused and use every challenge as an opportunity to learn new stuff. And that's where to go. That's what how I dealt. Because, and I also, part of my volunteering efforts, I do ABET accreditation visits on behalf of AAC. I go on, I evaluate civil engineering programs at various universities every year. I've been doing that for the last 10 years. And at least the schools I visited, I haven't seen any infrastructure program in their curriculum like West Point has. So that's very unique and very good. But, so having a lot of schools not teaching that, and also I haven't learned it. So how was I able to fit in this SIP world is trying to learn everything you can whenever you have the opportunity and have the basics straight, then you can adapt to the situation. And also being a team player and able to work with everyone else with other background. And I think that's my last bullet there.
Want questions?
What's that?
We want questions.
Yeah, and then what I also did was, it's my classic, if you ask my wife, she said, why do you go to school so many times? I mean, haven't you learned the correct way the first time? But anyway, so I had a couple of masters in engineering, one hydraulics, one structure, so it's very good to work for the Corps of Engineers. Then I had the PhD in structural engineering. Then a few years back, DOD said, oh, you want to go to ICAF or one of the law colleges or PME? I said, senior PME, sure. I won't see being in the DOD for 20 years. I said, yeah, I should know how the military side works. So I went to ICAF, but that was a good learning experience. The point is, having been to ICAF and having taken classes at the National Corporates, ICAF, and the I College, Information Management College on the infrastructure protection, really helps me do my current job. So having not used the opportunity, I would be somewhat lost here. So that's the attitude I take. You just use whatever you can and it's going to help you or you can help others. All right, what's next?
Questions?
We have another slide. Let me see. Probably not. Okay, and the next one I have some pictures, I think. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Do you want me to take it now or later?
No, you can take them now.
Okay. I hope I didn't speak too fast, but it said you have the slides. Anyway, I'm ready to. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Mitch Erickson. I'm with the DHS Science and Technology. I'm a chemist by training. And one thing I'd add to your last slide there is to really understand what the ins and outs of a scope of work are. If you're going to be in the business of, on the private sector side, responding to scopes of works, it's good to understand how they're crafted. If you're going to be in the government side, you're going to craft them. It's important to understand how to do it well. So regardless of where you are in that spectrum, at some point, at least a day of COTAR training can be very, very valuable. Preferably go through the whole process. And one good example, when I took the first training class I took, we had a go-home exercise the night over, and everybody came back and tried to respond to this scope of work. It was about that long, and it turned out it was the first draft of the Humvee scope of work. And it turns out you could actually answer that very effectively with a helicopter.
Yeah.
Okay, it had to go this way, that way, this, and So the point is, understand scopes of work. A lot of the conversation that went on over the lunch had to do with scope of work flaws. So it's important no matter where you are in this whole spectrum.
Thank you. That's a good point. And also, I would add to that the comment that most of the infrastructure, at least in the U.S., most of them are owned by private industry. So when even though the DHS, DOD, we have all these sectors, actually DHS, the special role is on the Office of Infrastructure Protection to partner with the private industry to make it happen. We also, if I say public works and electricity, for 95% of the electric energy it comes from outside the installation. So we had to partner outside. So thank you. Anything else? Anyone else? All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.